Welcome back to the channel. So we're back with Damon. We're talking about driver and irons, the difference between the two, and why we're starting to see different ball flights with iron versus driver, draws, fades, and why we're seeing this. So Damon, this was your idea for a video, and it came from me and something I'm struggling with in my game at the moment. So why don't we just open this topic up? We'll just explain a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, just so the guys can make sure this is the right video for them, and we're going to tell them what we're going to get from today's session.
Perfect. So one of the most common complaints I get as a coach is I can hit my desired draw shape shot with my irons, but as soon as I go to hit driver, we struggle. Yep. And it goes the opposite way. And this conversation has actually come about you talking or asking the question around swing direction and club path. What's the difference? What is even swing direction? Yep. And a lot of people don't realize it, right? Unless you actually have access to a TrackMan and a coach that knows a little bit about it, you're not going to know. So let's really set the scene on exactly what they are and how they're influenced. And then that will really then help us understand a bit better around why we maybe find it easier to hit the draw with the irons and not so much with the driver.
Perfect. So I don't know if you want to just talk through some of the numbers you put up here as an example.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in a privileged situation here where we can see these numbers.
Absolutely.
So it'd be really good for you to kind of talk through these numbers for people that might get these up on their own simulator, and then maybe also talk about what that might visually look like, where people can actually look at what's happening for themselves. And then we'll talk about why these numbers are so important. We're going to pick the two important ones here for answering this question of driver versus irons, draw and fade, right? So I don't know if you want to kind of explain what we've got here.
If it's all right, I'm going to get rid of a load of numbers there that just aren't relevant to really help us out.
Let's do that.
So the three numbers we have here are the one that everyone knows about, club path. Then we have swing direction, which isn't really spoken about much, and you didn't even really know what it was before. Yep. It's a great question, hence this video. And then attack angle. Now, what people don't realize is that swing direction is just on the horizontal plane, okay? So it's 2D. And that is just basically a direction in which you are swinging the club, okay? So a negative swing direction here is TrackMan's way of suggesting that I'm working the club to the left, so technically out to in, okay? Reason why we have attack angle on here, because this influences our swing direction to ultimately give us our club path. And our club path is 3 dimensions, so it's horizontal and also vertical. So why that's important is because when we are swinging the club, as the club is working down, that also has a direction element to it. So on our golf swing, or in our golf swing, we swing on a circle, right? So as my club, for this camera here, as my club is working down, it's also working out to the right, which is a positive number on TrackMan or an in to out swing direction. As the club works back on the opposite side, so working up now after its low point, the club is clearly traveling now more towards the left, which is the negative TrackMan number and the out to in path. So even though my actual swing direction was slightly out to in or negative to the left, because I hit 3 down on the golf ball, which produces a more positive number, it pushes my path actually out 1/2 degree to the right.
Okay, and that was kind of the little bit of silence that we just had there was the silence when you explained that to me the first time.
Yeah.
Because we are very, very used to seeing club path, and people, you know, a lot of people that watch this channel have got a decent idea of things. They're very educated in golf and in golf metrics, and they will understand the idea between club path and face and the relationship between the two and what that causes the ball flight. But the swing direction is the one we just don't see that often, right? Yeah. And it's one that doesn't get spoken about a lot. And I think the reason it is because people think that the path and face are the two things that are going to change ball flight, and that's what we go to important. But it's going to lead us nicely onto our question today of why we get this distance between iron and driver, because this attack angle is the one that changes so dramatically when we move between clubs, right? Or ball position moves or things change.
Correct, absolutely. And that's why it's so important. People go, is there 2 different swings between driver and irons? Well, absolutely. One, we're trying to get ball first, turf second. We're hitting down on the ball. So that's the attack angle negative, right? Pushes the path more out to the right for the right-handed golfer. Whereas you're hitting driver at slower speeds, we're trying to hit up on that golf ball, right? So as soon as you're trying to hit up on it, that's pulling the path more left. So if my swing direction is already working left and I now have a positive attack angle, it's going to work the club even further left.
Yeah. Fascinating. So this leads us nicely onto this draw versus fade. So
brilliant.
I've actually thought of another question, which I'm not going to forget, and I'm going to ask you at the end. But let's say that now we're changing this attack angle as we move from driver to iron.
Yep.
Why is it then so difficult? Because obviously it's still possible to hit a draw with the driver, and it's possible to hit a fade with the iron. So where do we get this kind of crossover of a lot of people that are able to hit draws with their irons and they're not able to hit a draw with the driver, and vice versa? So what happens with these numbers so drastically to see these changes? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. So if we're quite neutral with our swing direction, but we can change our attack angle from -3, -4 down to +4 up, that's going to switch the the club path from a in to out to a out to in path. So you not changing your swing at all, so you swinging the club on the same swing direction as you always do, but by simply shifting your ball position and shifting the way you're approaching the golf ball from negative to positive will completely change your club path.
Can we see it? Can I put you under pressure? Can I get you to hit one? Can we try and... I'm going to put you under serious pressure now.
Yeah.
So can we try and keep this swing direction relatively stable?
Okay.
And can we try and change this attack angle and see what happens to club path?
Yeah, of course. I'll try it with the 7, and then I'll probably be better off doing it with driver. But
let's do that.
We'll give the 7 a go first. So neutral, and what you want, more negative or less negative?
So let's hit one that was going to be similar to these. This will give us a big benchmark to work from. Okay. So let's see what the guys will be able to see what that looks like, and they're going to see that the club path is going to stay. All these numbers hopefully are going to stay relatively neutral. This is your stock. Nice. So we kind of see
pretty similar, right?
Pretty similar, right? So what we're saying now is that actually path is relatively neutral.
Yep.
That would be deems a relatively neutral number. But it's coming from a swing direction that's actually moving across to the left. Right?
Correct.
So let's see with the driver then. Here we go, no pressure. No warm up either, no prep.
Well, to be fair, if I'm honest, mate, that's what I've been working really hard on, trying to neutralize my swing direction.
Okay, let's have a look at that with the same
my typical with my irons is to get really stuck and get too far from the inside.
Okay.
So if I was just to show you one of my bad moves where my swing direction is significantly out to the right, which then with the downward angle of attack pushes it even further. Kind of just show you that before we get the driver.
Yeah, let's
give you an extreme. Now this is what I've been trying hard to get rid of or get work away from. It's all right. Wasn't as down on it as perhaps I would have liked. Okay.
But we see a huge difference in swing direction, and then you can see that the club path is exaggerated by that.
Exactly.
Direction, right?
Yeah, you've got it. So the swing direction was 6 out to the right. I've hit down on it 1 and it's pushed it further out to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's quite a good way now to show you how it can change with the
driver.
Really putting pressure on us here, eh?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to put even more pressure on you in a sec, though, because I'm going to ask you a question that you weren't prepared for. So
I love that.
I'm going to wait for that one. I'm safe here.
I hope so.
Unless you're going to go swing direction. Yeah.
You safe? You sure?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, good. If not, it's going to make a good video.
It'll be a good bloopers, right?
Yeah, it will be. So hopefully it's a big change here. There we go.
There you go.
So talk us through these numbers then and how they've changed.
Okay, awesome. So you can actually see there that my swing direction was 5.5 degrees out to the right. So that should be more draw biased, right? Mm-hmm. But because I've hit up on the ball excessively, 6.6 degrees up, that shifted my path further out to the left. Okay, so my club path there was half a degree out to in. Yeah.
So what shape? So we can see the shape here. This ball is not drawn. Right?
No, it's not.
So
even though
you've tried excessively to swing out to the right and try and create this draw field, which is what most people will do. They'll say, I understand that I need to work more from the inside to create this draw fade to get this draw pattern. Yeah, we're still going to see the ball moving. If anything, move.
And this is where just using club path doesn't really work in coaching, because if you don't have the camera to show and then the slow-mo to be able to see that actually I did work clearly from the inside there, a coach might just say to you, all right, you've worked too neutral, we need to work you more from the inside. Even more, and that could cause some serious issues where ultimately actually I don't need to be hitting up on the ball as much. And that could be something as simple as just shifting my ball a little bit further back in my stance or having a look at my tilt through my spine.
And this is exactly what we spoke about in my game.
Absolutely.
I was saying that my path was getting excessively to the left.
Yep.
We spoke about like what complications that can have with ball flying, different things. And you said, okay, just move the ball further back. And what we saw was that suddenly attack angle changed, and then we started to see all these other numbers change. We also saw
so yours was a really good example where your swing direction was quite aggressively left. As soon as we moved the ball further back, you hit it earlier in your circle, that swing direction just altered ever so slightly, knocked it back closer to 0, and it just gave us that more neutral number that we were looking for.
It certainly did. So here's the question that's going to put you on the spot.
Come on.
What happens when we're someone that has driver and we hit down on it still? So you're thinking now of that choppy over the top cutter of the golf ball. They're hitting down on it. Their swing direction is still probably left.
Yeah.
I don't know what then happens to their path, but they're going to see this high floaty cut shot that they want to get rid of, right?
Yep.
One, that might be then made worse by them hitting up on it. Is that going to make it further left?
Again, so for me straight away, I'd be asking where they're hitting it out of the face.
Yeah.
Okay. So strike location. And if they, again, don't get me wrong, some of the best players in the world, when they're at high speeds, they do hit down on the golf ball because they can afford to. But actually, for your recreational club golfer, we don't create enough speed on average. So hitting up on the ball is going to be really beneficial. So for me, looking specifically with driver impact factors, I'd be looking at strike location and absolutely changing that downward angle of attack to a positive one.
And what would you then see changing here? Because what we know then is obviously by increasing this, it's going to get them more left. No. So are they now going to start hitting the ball with more left to right shape as a right-handed golfer?
Again,
and is that going to be relative to face, right?
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. But like we spoke about before, when you were hitting down on the golf ball, you're launching the ball lower. When you launch the ball lower, you have a lot less freedom or forgiveness with path and face.
Like a variance between the two.
Perfect. Right? The variance between the two. So that's why we want to try and get up to that optimal 14 degrees. Actually, for the lower speed end, more 16 degrees.
Yep.
But so you're right in what you're saying, but actually by increasing the launch, increasing the loft, we get more room for error with the difference.
Which is what we're on, right? For a lot of golfers, that's
what it's all about, right?
For sure.
Everyone talks about speed, but actually if we can get the ball more in play more often, get rid of the penalty shots, get rid of the doubles, handicap's going to plummet.
It sure is. It sure is. So how would you leave this with the guys if they do have access to these numbers or they get access to later in their own golf swing and they're struggling with this? Are we saying that actually, lean into this fade bias with the driver and try to play with it? Or where would you leave people? I know it's a hard question because it's very generic. I know it's going to be personal, but people are obsessed with this stuff and they want to go and work on stuff. So how would you leave it with them of any kind of advice that you would drop them to finish off with today?
Get to know the numbers. Get to know how the attack angle can influence club path. Understand that a little bit better. And then on there, going off the individual, it's really about, right, what's your matchup right now? Grip, wrist, setup. How are you delivering the club? And then ultimately looking at that, what's the easiest way to create a desired ball flight? Don't just go to try and play the draw because you think it's the sexy thing to do. If your swing direction is left and you do hit up on the ball really nicely with driver, you're going to have to change so many principles or key points there, or patterns specifically, to try and hit that draw. So start to then understand the concepts around, right, if we're going to go hit a fade, what does that actually entail? Club face, club path. What does that entail? Angle of attack. How can we then get you set up to deliver that buzzword consistently? Because that's what we're ultimately looking for, right?
It is. And I've got a better idea. Drop you a message.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys will help out, right? So if you are asking any more questions of this, or you've got any more things that you're interested in on this topic, I found that super interesting when we spoke about it earlier, and I found it also interesting talking about it now. I'll put all of Damon's details here, and you can drop him a message and ask him a question for you. But where's the best place for us to get a hold of you, Damon?
Instagram, Damon Wood Golf. I try and respond to absolutely every message I get, guys. And I'm also currently offering every new follower a free swing review. So
no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. You've got it.
Damon, thanks for your time again, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.